Okay, so despite what I said at the end of the last video there, I think it's actually going to make more sense that we put the email management system on hold for a moment and actually jump right in and start creating our site. Reason being is that while this process is fairly simple, there are a lot of sort of moving parts, and it gets a little murky in terms of how to teach it. It's sort of easy for me to do when I'm just kind of in there, but there's all this bopping back and forth from one system to another that makes it again challenging to teach this and show you how to do this in a sort of linear fashion. But I'm going to do my best here, and I think to do that we should probably just again jump right in and create our first few pages. We're going to create a squeeze page and a couple of thank you and confirmation pages to go along with it. Again, it's a relatively easy process. The squeeze page is central to everything that we're going to be doing. There are some of you who I am sure are going to skip everything else and just create the squeeze page because you're going to want to start collecting email addresses. I see that all the time where people don't use everything, but they do want to be capturing email addresses, and so they sort of start and stop with this. And I know that's going to be the case with some of you. If you do nothing else, I get asked this question a lot. If there is one thing you can advise musicians to do that they can do today, what would it be? It's to get a squeeze page up. Because at the end of the day, when you have a big email list, you have an asset, you have a career, you have a group of people that you can keep going back to over and over again. In the non-music world, when people sell businesses, often all they're selling is their client list, and that shows you just how valuable that client list is, and musicians seem to overlook this. Your fan list, your email list is your client list, and it is the value, it represents the value of your company. So everything boils down to this entryway, this gateway into your sales funnel. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to set up our first squeeze page. Now, at the end of 6 months or a year of doing this stuff, you're probably going to have a lot of squeeze pages. I tend to create a new one every time I start driving a different type of traffic, so I can track things and segment things accordingly, so that it basically allows me to market differently to different groups of people. However, all you technically need is a single squeeze page. And again, we've kind of touched on this a bit, but I'm going to go over it again. The elements here are our headline. We want to make a bold promise and claim about, promise or claim about our music, something that entices people to sign up. You want to try to avoid simply saying, get a free download of, fill in the blanks music, because no one needs another download. What they're looking for from music, for the most part, is some kind of an experience, and you need to convey that in your headline. You need to think about your target demographic, what makes them tick, what passions they have, and appeal to those passions with your headline. So to give you an example, with this squeeze page, I am promoting to an alt country crowd, and the headline is "Kick off your boots, pour yourself a whiskey, and get yourself a free download from one of the most refreshing new alt country artists in a very long while." So I've stated alt country so everyone knows what it is, but I've also conjured up some of these more romantic images if you're one of these people like myself who tends to find all this alt country stuff appealing, or Americana stuff appealing. So we've got boots and whiskey and all this stuff that has this classic smokiness to it, and then again we state what it is right here with the claim alt country. Now, in contrast to this, I've also had success doing simpler headlines where you simply say something along the lines of, if you're a fan of alt country music, then you'll love John Ojaka, or whatever the case may be. You can even get into direct artist comparisons. If you're a fan of Elvis Costello, then you'll love so-and-so, and these kinds of things. When you get into that, leveraging the weight of other artists' names, it gets into somewhat of a legal gray area. That's not to say that people aren't doing it all the time, and I haven't done it a lot myself, but I just, when you put this stuff out there, you want to throw all these disclaimers everywhere so that no one ever comes back at you. You should be aware that that is a gray area. If you want to be absolutely safe, you can talk to a lawyer about whether or not your advertisement is legal. But on a more casual note, I have done it many, many times with success, just simply doing, if you like Bob Dylan, then you'll love John Ojaka and these types of ads. But if you're concerned about that, then you can go more general and stick with a genre where you're essentially saying if you're a fan of this kind of music, then you'll also love this artist. But again, really try to remember that we're trying to convey an experience. That's what excites people about music. That's what tends to make people want to take the next step and be a part of what it is that you're offering. So again, I spent a lot of time there because it's very important. In fact, it's really just about going to boil down to your headline and not much else. Of course, the other things do matter, but the headline is the most crucial factor here. I really suggest that you try out different things. We'll get into that later, tweaking and testing, but you're going to want to test different headlines until you find one that ultimately converts. But that is the idea. Make a bold claim or promise about what your music will deliver on. Then we have the sub-headline. That's this section here, and that just basically states what they're going to get, and you can see here, and now you can download 3 of his hit singles for free. And you'll notice, by the way, that in this page I'm speaking third person. You don't have to do that. You can create a page that's third person or first person. I did it third person. Both work. In fact, when you can pull off first person, I'd even go as far as to say I think that will generally be more successful. But it's easier to write about yourself and brag about yourself in the third person. So then I've got just one line here. Listen to what others are saying about John Ojaka. Do not feel that you need to copy and paste any of this stuff verbatim. You can absolutely change this up and leave certain things out if you want. But that's what I use. Then I have an image right here. I'm going to suggest you use an image. And then we've got some quotes. Now that's what I use to establish social proof. That's what this section is here. We're branding ourselves with the image and we're establishing social proof with these quotes. You don't have to use quotes. There are plenty of people watching this that are going, but I don't have any press. What do I do? Well, you can either omit this section and not use any social proof on the page, or you can simply reach out to some of your existing fans and use fan quotes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'd say that while, I've got a quote here from Elton John and Howard Stern, while those lend a lot of weight to this page, I'd say I'd get 70% of that same weight and that same social proof if I was just quoting somebody on Facebook that was a friend or a fan that had said something nice. So go and get a few testimonials if you don't have press quotes that you can use. Just make sure you get permission. So then we come down to the body copy, and in this body copy we basically kind of take a pause and start over. We explain who we are, who the artist is, and then we go into a little more detail about what the music itself is and what you're going to be delivering in the tracks specifically, and then you state your offer. And here it's for a limited time, John's giving away a free single from each of his 3 albums. Just enter your name and email address in the right hand side, and you will immediately be sent the download link to the free tracks. And then I restate the offer again. So enter your name and email address. This is basically just tell them very specifically what to do. So enter your name and email address. Now load up your iPod and hit the road, because as a legendary singer-songwriter Elton John mentioned in regards to John's music, it's good music to listen to. So again, there's a lot of reiteration here, a lot of redundancy in copy, and that's because people really need it. You're figuratively speaking, you're trying to grab these people by the shirt collar and take them with you to get them to take the next action, because people are resistant. It's human nature. They will try to find reasons not to take whatever action it is you want them to do. So you really need to make it extremely clear in terms of what you are offering and what you want them to do next. You will find that doing so increases your conversion rate. So again, just to reiterate that, bold headline, claim or promise about what your music will deliver on, a sub-headline telling them what they are going to get, an image, a heading for the social proof, and then a few quotes. I use 3 usually, although you kind of have to play with it to make it look good next to the image. Then we go into the body copy, where we give a little background, a little more depth on who the artist is, and then I provide a paragraph stating what specifically they're going to find when they get these tracks, what the music is actually like. And then we state our offer, and then we sort of restate and summarize our offer. And I'll provide example links to my pages in the resources so that you have something that you can go through and analyze. Feel free to take any of it that you want. You can absolutely go and rip me off and take copy, but do try to get creative. The more you can breathe your own voice into this stuff, the better you're going to do. Then, of course, we have our default red arrow, a little bit of text here, just again telling them what to do. Enter your name and email address below, and we'll send you 3 of John's latest singles free, and then our opt-in code. So again, spend a lot of time explaining that because it's very important. Now we're going to go and create it. I've actually already copied and pasted the elements. So what we want to do, just so you don't have to actually watch me type it all out, what we're going to do is come back to our dashboard. Again, if you ever need to log in, you just go to yourdomain/wp-admin. But once in your dashboard, you're going to come to, if I can only find it, Pages, and click Add New. And then we are going to start typing our text. Now again, I work in the text editor. You can work in the visual editor if you want. I said this in an early video. I'm just going to show you what happens. Like, I copied and pasted everything from here by just highlighting and pasting. If I paste that into the visual editor, the HTML carries over. And then when we look at that code by going to the text editor, we can see there's all kinds of style added to that. You can see these brackets and things like that that we may or may not want. So I, again, as a more advanced user, tend to just use the text editor. But you're going to be staring at code and things that can be a little more complicated. At the very least, I'm going to paste everything in here. Then I'll come back to the visual editor, because that's what most of you are probably going to be using. And we've got our different sections. So let's just, for the sake of speed, imagine that I just typed all of that copy out that you just saw. To make it look like it does here, what we want to do is highlight our headline, and then we need to come to, if it's not displaying, click on this button here, Show Hide Kitchen Sink. Sometimes it will display, sometimes it won't. And we're looking for this option here, the Paragraph tab. We want to click on Heading 1. You can see that just added some style to it. It looks kind of weird. It's not going to look like that when it's done. It's going to look like that. Then we want to come here to this subheadline, and now you can download 3 of his hit singles for free. We're going to add heading 2, and I'm not going to add any style to listen to what others are saying about John, but I do want to center it, so I highlight it and then come up here and align center. Now we need an image. So let's see here. What you want to do is take your cursor and put it just here to the left of that very first quote, and we're going to come up here and click Add Media, and we're going to select a file. I've already saved this, if I can only find it. There it is, JO Photo. And it takes a second to upload. Okay, and you can see that I've got, what I did on this particular image is just went and kind of brushed the edges of it so it fit in nicely. By no means do you need to do that. These look quite nice when they just have a nice frame around it. Just taking a bland image with no frame might look a little flat. You might want to at least put some kind of a drop shadow on it. And if you need to do anything like that, you can come to a site called Pixlr. It's free. If you have Photoshop or something like that, that's great. But this can do most of the stuff that Photoshop can do, at least for us amateur designers. And it's free. So you go to pixlr.com/editor, and again I'll put that in the resources, and then you can do just about anything you want with an image. You would just open an image from your computer, do something like that, and you can add borders, drop shadows. What I did was simply select the color that I wanted and then created a brush, came up here and found a more jagged edge. Let's see, here's one I can use. came down here and then just kind of colored in, made some weird jaggedy kind of lines like so. There really wasn't much to it. So you can play with it however you want. Again, you can put borders on things. They've actually got another cool editor. If you just want to put a simple border on it, you just go to pixlr.com. Go to, believe it is Pixlr-O-Matic. Click computer, add your image. And again, I've already got a border here, but you can play with this and add all kinds of funky filters. They've got some frames down here. If I can only get it to go there. Let's actually take this back to none. And then we click on this arrow here. This gives us the options of various effects. Again, I'm going to stick with none. Click next. And you can add frames this way. There's like a grungy black frame and so forth, and that might work for a lot of you as well. And then you would just save it to your computer and use that. But again, not a design course, just wanted to give you a few tips on how you could do that. So we've got our image. This really isn't that important for a squeeze page, but I would put your name, your artist's name, your main keyword. You can put an alt text tag if you want. I usually just use same thing, but the idea with an alt text tag is that you are describing what is in the image for someone who can't actually see, for people who are blind. They'll be able to read what is on the screen, or their software that aids them in browsing the net will be able to read that and explain that to them. There's also certain search engine benefits for doing so. Alignment, you want to select left. Media file, this is what this is actually the link to option. By default, it will be going to media file, which just means if they click on it, it'll go directly to the image. You want to select none. Then you want to go to full size, which, by the way, I'm working with an image that is 251 by 280. That's 251 pixels wide by 280. I recommend that you do something around the same size, although you do have the ability to play with the size of that image. It's just every little change you make to that image and those quotes, it's going to affect the way things look, and so you'll have to play with things a little bit to get it to sort of display perfectly for you. And all I typically do is try shrinking and blowing up that image until everything sits nicely. I'll show you what I mean by that. We click Insert Post. Now you can do whatever you want with the fonts here for the quotes. I tend to do bold. Sometimes I'll just bold the source. But let's see what that looks like first with everything bold, and then I don't really need to do anything with my text here. If you wanted to underline or bold out a few lines to really stress them, you could. That sometimes helps. For a limited time, John is giving away a free single from each of his 3 albums. So let's underline that, click that, and let's just make sure there's nothing I'm forgetting. I need to come here and select a default, or select a template. We want squeeze page, and we click publish. Oh, you know what I did forget is a name for the post. So once that saves, we'll come back and do it. There we go. We'll just call this free track. We need to edit that because I screwed it up. Normally it will just it'll just automatically frac edit. What the heck did I just do there? Freudian slip. Free track. That was weird. Normally the slug, the page, will just be the same as your post name, and I didn't need to put the space there. I'm really screwing things up here. So we click OK until that takes, and then we update. And let's see, there's a very good chance we'll have some formatting issues, particularly because I was in the visual mode. That often happens, and it's not a problem. We just tweak until everything looks good, but maybe we'll get lucky. We open the link in a new tab, and here you go. You know, things actually look all right. No formatting issues. We can see we've got our underline. That doesn't pop out that much. Might make sense to bold out that text. The only thing I'm not loving is how this last line of text wraps around down here. Not a big deal, but I don't love it. I have two options. I could either play with the text or play with the image. If I wanted to play with the image, I would just come back here. I'd get into the text mode instead of visual mode, and if you can see here this little bit of code that goes along with the image that starts right here, if you follow the code, you've got a URL that represents the image. You've got this little bit of code here, width 251 and height 280. If we wanted to make this a little bit thicker, we could by just changing that to, let's say, 260, but that will cause things to look strange. It will stretch the image width but not the height, so we delete the height. It's a simple way of solving it. Click update. This may not be enough to change it, but we'll give it a go and see. I refresh the page. No, actually I made it worse, so I could come in. Let's see here, 251. I don't want to come in too much more, so what I'm going to do is I don't want to make the image smaller, so what I'm going to try doing is clicking unbolding the text and just bolding out the sources. Then we come down here, and again let's try bolding that out and leaving the underline. Why not? Update, and let's refresh, see what happened, see if that changed things at all. And okay, it wasn't enough, and frankly I don't actually even like how it looks because it's stretching this, so we would have to change the length of the image. So let's just do that. Come back to text and let's shrink this a little bit. Let's go to 240 and update. Come here and refresh. It still wasn't enough. So I'm going to leave it for now, but what I would have to do to not shrink this too badly is come in here and take this image, go back to Pixel Art Editor, and just extend the canvas, extend the image size a little bit on the bottom so that the image actually extended lower, and that would push the text over, yet it would look the same to our eyes. So I'm going to go back and change the pixel width to what it originally was because I liked how that worked at least. And again, I'm probably spent too much time talking about how to do this, but I know that this comes up for a lot of people, and if you've never built a website or messed with any of this stuff, then changing something as small as an image can be a problem. And because everyone's quotes are going to be different, I know there's going to be a lot of layout issues. So anyway, for the most part, I don't think that this is a problem, and truth be told, it is the one I've been using and it works just fine. It just bothers me. So maybe I'll play with the image at a later date, give it just a little bit more room on the bottom there, add again just a white extension to the canvas size, the image size, and that'll push this line over and it'll look a little more uniform. But this is looking pretty good. We've got our squeeze page. You can see that there's one glaringly obvious thing that is missing, and that is our opt-in form and the little descriptive text that goes right here. That is something that we'll need to do over at Aweber, and once we have our form we can come back and paste it into the theme. But there are a couple other things that Aweber is going to ask us for, so we're going to create those while we're here, and that's basically just a thank you page and a confirmation page. A thank you page is the page that after someone enters their name and email address, they are taken to that basically tells them what's going to happen next. It would explain that it would thank them for entering their name and email address and explain that a confirmation email was on its way to their inbox, and in order to get their free music they needed to click that confirmation link, and once they did, they get the free download. Then we have a confirmation page, which is where we take them after they have clicked that link to say, thanks, your download is now on its way to your inbox, or if you prefer, you can post the download link right there on that page. So these are very quick and simple. We won't won't spend that much time on them. I'll show you how it's done. We go, and by the way, what you'd probably want to do now is just copy that URL and paste it on a little swipe file somewhere so that you knew where it was, everything that we're doing, so that you could come back to it, or you could just go into Pages and find it, but you'll want all these URLs for a later date. So let's create those new pages, the thank you page and the confirmation page. To do so, we come here to New, click on Page, and I suppose I didn't spend a lot of time on it. Post is only for blog posts, things that are going to appear in your main blog feed. Everything else is a page. All of these squeeze pages, sales pages, admin pages, they're all created as pages. They are different types of pages structurally within the site, and they do different things. And think of pages as static posts, things that you're going to use in a more evergreen way. Admin pages, squeeze pages, sales pages. Think of posts as your feed, things that are going to appear again in that dynamic blog feed on the homepage of the blog. And it's just there are a number of ways that things separate out. For example, we've set up the site so that we've got share buttons on the post but not the pages, and it's a handy little way of differentiating pages by their purpose. So we're almost always creating pages. So I've written everything out here so that I don't have to type it out in front of you. Our first page, I'll just read it to you so you get the idea. And again, I'll post examples for your reference in the resources. We've got a headline that says, wait, there's just one thing left to do. And then in a few moments, a confirmation email will arrive in your inbox. You will need to verify that you are indeed a human by clicking on the confirmation link. Once you have done so, you will receive your download links. Thanks again, and enjoy the music, John Ojaka. Again, we're just telling them what to expect. You can use your own voice and word that in any way, shape, or form. Then we come here to the templates and we select sales page. You could technically use some other pages. I suppose you could use full width with no sidebar. I like sales page. Now we click. Oh, actually, one other thing. Remember that MetaRobots plugin we installed? This is a good time to use it. Index follow means that the search engines are basically crawling your content, and it would be searchable. People could find this page, and because it's a thank you page, we don't really want that. It wouldn't do any harm if they did, but might be a little weird. So I'll go to no index, no follow. This essentially means that there's a wall up around this page, and the search engines are not going to be crawling this content, and no one will ever find it in Google's index. We click publish. There's one other thing you might want to do. In fact, let's do it to make it simple. Let's make this a simpler to remember page URL. You don't have to do this, but I do it. Thanks. Click OK. There. Now our URL is just johnojakamusic.com/thanks, and then update. And just a note, if you ever put your download links or any important private information, you wouldn't want to just use a simple URL like that said thanks, because some people are savvy and would just try various combinations of that, because thinking that your free downloads would be there and not wanting to sign up. It's not a major problem, but it's a good habit to avoid, or it's a good thing to avoid. But because we're not offering the download links here, that doesn't matter. Now we need to create one more of these. Actually, we'll just view that. Forgot one important element. Let's take this. We need to put that in here. This is because I used the sales page template. A sales page template is designed not to display your headline. So you can call this actually anything that you want. I just plain forgot that. We highlight this, and then we go to visual, highlight it, select heading 1, then update it. It's good that you're seeing this stuff, because inevitably, as you see, I've been doing this for years and I'm still making the mistakes, and rather than have it hang you up, you'll see how to fix it. We refresh the page, and and now we've got our nice big bold headline there. And you can see that we've also got that footer that we established a bit earlier. It's carrying over to all our different page template types. So now let's click on Add New. Take my other pre-written email here. I call this Confirmation, and I'm going to use the heading Awesome. You're all set. Your download info is on its way to your inbox now. Be sure to hit reply once you've had a chance to listen to the music. I'd love to hear what you think. So it's a good idea here to just encourage people to communicate with you wherever you can. You really want to do that. Some people don't really want to do that. They don't want to communicate with their fans. They'd rather be left alone. I really think that's a terrible mistake. I think in this new music industry, it's all about creating a tribe and taking care of your fans and taking care of these people and getting to know them. So really encourage you to try to promote that relationship at every turn, including here on this confirmation page. Thanks again and enjoy the music. John Ojaka. And you can see here that automatically the page slug was just pulled from the page title. We're going to again come down here and turn this into a sales page, and I'm going to select no index, no follow, and we're going to publish the page. Let's just view that. Okay, great. Now we've got those pages. So I should have been adding those to that little swipe file that I suggested you keep, and which I of course didn't. But that's the other reason that I go with very simple slugs, confirmation and thanks, because you're going to need to remember this stuff. So let's close those up. Let's view that. Just take one final look at our new squeeze page. Alright, so just to recap, we've created our squeeze page. This is the entry point to our entire sales funnel, your entire music career, your business structure. It all starts with this. We're going to be driving traffic to this page. It may seem simple, but the elements are important and powerful. But as you can also see, it is missing the opt-in form. So that's what we're going to need to do next, is go and create our autoresponder, our email management system. And once we've done that, we're going to take a bit of code that we're going to get from the system and plug it into this page. So I'm going to sign off now, and in the next video we're going to go and set that up. We're going to create our email management system, and I'm going to explain more about what company I think you should use and why it's so important that you choose the right one. Alright, I'll see you in the next lesson.